Hello, sisters. My name is Laura George, and I'm the delegate from the Oracle Institute. I serve in the Peace Room representing the justice and governance sector. My totem is Lady Liberty, and I'm one of the co-counselors of the Women's Congress. Today, it is my honor to introduce our guest speaker, Matt Meyer. Matt is an internationally recognized author, educator, and peace activist who serves as the Secretary General Emeritus of the International Peace Research Association, which holds special consultative status at the United Nations. He also is a board member of the storied A.J. Must Institute. Previously, he served as national co-chair of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, the oldest interfaith peace and justice group in the U.S. He also is the former national chair of the War Resisters League and served as their Africa Support Network coordinator. In addition, Matt worked to build alternative education structures within the New York City Department of Education. Originally a high school-based historian, his tenure included service as the union leader of a local section of the United Federation of Teachers and as an early supporter and staff member of the Harvey Milk School, which provided education for youth who were harassed based on sexual orientation, gender identification, or self-definition. Matt is the author of more than 20 books and countless journals and articles. He frequently contributes to Waging Nonviolence, as well as their peer-reviewed journals like Science and Society, Tikkun, Peace Review, and the Journal of Peace Education. And he serves as the editorial board of Peace and Change, which is co-published by IPRA and the Peace History Society. And on the grassroots level, Matt works on everything from local community building to dismantling the prison and military industrial complexes. And this year, Matt was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for his lifetime contributions to peace. Lastly, I want to highlight that Matt used to work in New York City at the original Peace Pentagon, which serves as a legendary sanctuary for peace and social justice groups for nearly 40 years, including Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, Socialist Party USA, the Granny Peace Brigade was there, the Catholic Peace Fellowship, and Workers' Solidarity Alliance, just to mention a few of the organizations that worked. Now, when it closed in 2016, we were able to get the URL. So today, the Peace Pentagon in Virginia serves as our founding mother's headquarters. So Matt, I'm turning it over to you, and I am so excited you're here.
I'm extraordinarily excited to be here with great thanks to all of you, and especially that amazing opening. I'm smelling the butterscotch now. And unfortunately, I don't have time to give my presentation because I think my biography ran too long. But no, any case, it's very sweet. I don't know if I can live up to all of the things that Laura mentioned, but I'll try my best here in this very special place, which I'm very honored to be part of. The topic we discussed was empowering women to stop war, some lessons and reflections. And needless to say, I've learned so much from women activists and academics, starting at a very early age from my own two grandmothers, who themselves were childhood friends. It is daunting to summarize these reflections in just 15 minutes. I feel privileged to live in several worlds, both organizer and scholar, both rooted in the global north, in New York City, where I live and was born, and in the many parts of Africa and Latin America, especially where I have done most of my work and where so much of my family and community resides. And we live, at a time when appearances suggest that I am a cisgendered male, apparently in a straight relationship, momentarily semi-able-bodied, racially white, and economically comfortable beyond the working class roots from which I come. However, we live at a time where fluidity is king, or maybe rather queen, and exploring gender non-binary, anti-norms, exploring queerness, exploring the diversities of our ethnicities and cultures is both acceptable and encouraged. Without going into what I see as the dangers of shifting social change work too much into individualistic identity politics, I do think the definitional fluidity of these times gives all of us, and maybe especially women, the space to explore options and self determined possibilities that have previously been closed. So, given this multiple worlds that we occupy and live in, let me start with some historical peace research reviews, the academic side of my life and history. Though the current global field of peace studies is often cited as being approximately 60 years old and fathered by Scandinavian professor Johan Galtung, I have been giving speeches all over the planet since his passing 2 years ago, arguing and urging that if we are to memorialize Galtung as with the founding father moniker, we must simultaneously note the equally significant mothers of the field. Two, both past, are especially vital to remember, and a third, still with us, continues to make pioneering contributions to the field. I'm going to outline these three and then four activists later in my talk to touch upon both seven women that were fundamental to my own work and development, but also I think are fundamental to looking at women peacemaking and women stopping war at this moment. I'll start with Elise Boulding. Elise Boulding's holistic, multidimensional approach to peace research has helped open all of our thinking beyond academic norms, better integrating the activist and academic into two halves of an inseparable whole that cannot be properly studied or considered one without the other. Elise's contributions to what a global culture of peace might look like helped expand the subfield of peace education beyond the academy and continues to challenge us to think outside of all boxes in imagining better tomorrows. Next, Betty Reardon. Betty almost single-handedly took the foundations of peace studies and spread it across the planet into teachable spaces for a peace education that would start in very early childhood teaching and continue to lifetime learning approaches. Betty did this while simultaneously centering in all of her work a study of the connections between militarism, sexism, the war system, and resistance. Believing that, and this is a quote from Betty, the conception of peace is profoundly influenced by feminism, close quote, and that true peace, like feminism, can only be built with an understanding of the interconnections between the personal and the political. Betty advocated a practice that understood that blind obedience to authority, often conditioned as male and rich white male authority, was a systemic problem that had to be addressed in our thinking and our organizations. She helped found the global network of women peace builders to further that goal. And finally, from the academic side, more recently, Mexican researcher Ursula Oswald Spring has written about the Patriocene, the links between the destruction of society, nature, and the environment on the one hand, and 6,000 plus years of violent patriarchal behaviors, aka wars, on the other. Ursula's work has helped reinforce within the academy the idea that, quote, patriarchy is based on violence, wars, and the exploitation of humans and nature, close quote. Thus, in order to build for peaceful futures and learning lessons of the Meyer traditions in Chile and the Zapatista experiences in contemporary southern Mexico, promoting subsistence production, inclusive education, traditional healthcare, and diverse productive activities is all essential. These bottom-up cultural options against the Patriocene can work to, quote, improve well-being, social care, local cohesion, sorority, and ecosystem restoration. Close quote. So I start with these three foundational lessons on empowering women to stop war from these three often little known women. I'll continue briefly with four further examples of activist women, perhaps even more unheralded and unknown, whose guidance should help ground our future work. Here again, two are ancestors and two remain inspiring, pioneering sisters. We'll start at the bottom left, Barbara Deming. Perhaps more than any other singular figure of the tumultuous US 1960s, that period I like to say began in 1954 and ended about 1979, the 60s, Barbara helped articulate a visionary of revolutionary peace practice that maintains sharp relevance for our current times. With Grace Paley and others, she often got arrested, including at the historic Women's Pentagon Action, which also had their offices at the Peace Pentagon, to, quote, mourn and rage and defy the Pentagon because it is the workplace of the imperial power which threatens us all, close quote. Barbara's writing of revolutionary equilibrium brings to nonviolence theory a sense of nuance, subtlety, internationalism, and vision that is still in need of further discussion and exploration today. Mawana Soa Koyate, founder of the All-African Women's Revolutionary Union and a lifelong dedicated Pan-Africanist, led with an infectious, positive, and unifying smile and practice. You can see that smile in the bottom second to left. A practice that understood both the centrality of African global potential as well as a deeply localized practice for whenever, wherever anyone happened to live and work. Not much was written by her or about her, something I've tried to rectify in my own most recent book, Beyond Our Current Boundaries, which I put in the center of the screen. As Mauna's practice cut across vast ideological, interpersonal, racialized, and gendered and geographic boundaries, even as the center of her work was mostly in the US cities of Boston and New York. Next, few people of any gender have gotten to serve as both their country's Deputy Minister of Defense and as a pacifist member of a local Quaker meeting. Meet South Africa's Nozizwe Malala Rutledge. She is one such peacemaker, a dedicated campaigner to embrace dignity of women everywhere as a means of contemporary anti-war work. And her organization, Embrace Dignity, continues to work primarily in South Africa today as she left government to go back to grassroots organizing. And finally, Maori leader Tina Ngata of Aotearoa, the Maori name of New Zealand, is one of a growing number of indigenous organizers from across the globe whose work at decolonizing our thinking and practice is beginning to have profound effects on peace organizations everywhere. Her focus on the roots of our colonial histories and practice in the so-called doctrine of discovery is linked to her practice as a powerful female leader, showing how we must rebuild our worlds based often on ancient traditional practices, many that were women-led. To be sure, these 7 spotlights, these snapshots of women, have less to do with the individuals named, though I do hope to spotlight these sheroes, but more to do with the 7 basic principles they represent regarding empowering women to stop war. These, in summary, are the 7 principles I draw from them. Allowing and encouraging ourselves to imagine more peaceful, non-sexist, future cultures, and working to make our imaginations real. Exploring the systemic connections between personal and political aspects of war making and peacemaking, and building lifelong educational models of an integrated peace. Linking our analysis of war with a practical global South-based analysis of patriarchy, class, and environmentalism so that a grassroots practice, a new practice, can emerge. Balancing the concepts of revolution, nonviolence, and equilibrium into an ever-evolving exploratory praxis. Working towards broad unity amongst peoples across the many boundaries that appear to divide us. Embracing the dignity of all peoples, especially women, who are often abused or overlooked, in ways that take us beyond our apparent contradictions and oversimplifications. And finally, struggling to decolonize our thinking and our work, such that our peace practice is fully reflected in the ways we treat one another in our campaigns, community groups, and relationships. I reflect on these in tribute to all the women here today, to my grandmothers, Molly and Sylvia, who along with Marilyn set me on a path, and to my contemporary, Meg and Molly, who struggle with me daily along with others to keep me on track to these ideals I try to live by. As a number of us in the US prepare to celebrate on July 4th, 2026, not 250 years of a significantly troubled democracy and the Declaration of Independence, but 250 plus years of resistance to the genocides that the US has and continues to inflict upon especially Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples. I will close this address with a declaration of my own and our commitment. More men must hold these truths to be self-evident, that if we are to truly believe that all people are created equal, we must work harder to stand up, to take the leadership of founding mothers and other women to build together a peace for us all. Thank you.